Hi, friends. Welcome back. So, Elon Musk learned his lesson, he says, and will the Fed learn their lesson? We're going to jump right into this, talk about markets and what's going on. So, this is Elon Musk here. He says, well, one lesson I've learned is that just because I say something to a group and they laugh doesn't mean it's going to be all that hilarious as a post on X. And, guys, we've known this about Musk for a long time. He's got very, very low EQ. And unfortunately, though, he's got a bunch of followers that also have low EQ, and it expands and expounds, however you want to say it. But the issue is this dude is like the owner of a social media platform, and Mr. Twitter Fingers can't control himself, and he just tweets out anything all day, every day, and it's a real problem, right? Be it it's insensitive, be it it's inflammatory, be it could incite violence, any number of things. And he's saying, hey, I learned my lesson. If you're like, okay, what's he talking about? Well, he tweeted out something right after the Trump assassination attempt, the second one, and kind of insinuating, hey, why isn't there more violence? And I'll read the tweet, and you guys can make up your own mind of what it is. So this is what it was right after the Trump thing. He's like, and no one is even trying to assassinate Biden, Kamala. And it's like So, you know, like I said, I'll let you guys read that however you want to read it. Yes, it's irresponsible for this kind of stuff to do. So that's why, and I understand, guys. I get it. I made a video about the Trump situation, and I just went through what FBI was saying and what the sheriff said, and basically try to present facts, and then talked about I don't want violence. And then yes, there's some people that in comments that get mad. They're like, oh, Chris, why don't you talk about conspiracy theories more and stuff like that? And for me, it's not appropriate, nor is it responsible, right? So I know these things. The sad thing though is that the guy who owns the social media company apparently has to learn these things. And there's, like I said, there's a whole legion of followers that hinge on every this guy's word, etc. It's a sad state that we live in. But unfortunately, you could argue that we just have this culture where there's too much of this how should I say irresponsibility on social media. Here's another one. This is all related stuff. Trump was saying I hate Taylor Swift. That was after Taylor Swift promoted or endorsed, I should say, Kamala Harris, right? And that's literally what it's like. Just think how crazy that is. It's a presidential candidate hating on a pop star. Here's another thing that was crazy recently, and it should be announced. It was supposed to be announced today, but we'll see. I haven't seen the announcements yet. But Trump's going to be announcing his world crypto. It's like world financial something, but it's going to be like a new crypto project. I told you guys about that in a prior video. But that's the world that we live in. And Trump continues to go on and blame Biden Harris for it's all your fault while people are trying to hurt me, etc. The thing is, when I dig into it, and I just show you guys what's up, give you a update of this story. So my understanding of the shooter's name is Ryan Ruth, I guess, or Roth, I guess it may have to say his name, but is that he was pro Ukraine, and I think he might even went there also, but basically he felt like Trump is going to withdraw support from Ukraine, and then therefore he should take whatever action. So that's my understanding of the situation. I'm not saying good or bad. Just like I don't condone violence at all. So, but this idea that suddenly it's someone else's fault, as Trump would say, that's why I read all the news and try to understand everything. I think that's the appropriate thing. It's a shame that we have to talk about this stuff, but it is. Talking about the Musk or Trump, whoever. One of the things that's interesting, and I mentioned the Farzad dude because he's one of the Tesla stock promoters. And it's always interesting to see what are they promoting today. Basically, they just repeat whatever Musk says and support him no matter what. So look at this. This is the Farzad dude again, one of the Tesla stock promoters. He's like, the hardest thing about being a creator on X is that the site is so addictive, and you end up consuming a lot more than creating. So he's basically kissing up to Musk how awesome his platform is, right? Or this is the kind of stuff. It's interesting in terms of just a understanding the world and what they're promoting these days. Here's another one from the Farzad dude against a Tesla stock promoter. Most unions in America are the result of horrifically managed companies. What's worse? Unions take horrifically managed company from bad to worse due to de-incentivizing hard work. Not my job disease. No wonder Boeing is such a national embarrassment. Why does this matter? Well, Musk is not a unionized shop. Most of the car companies in the USA are, and essentially, you get these army of followers like, oh, I hate unions, I hate workers. Why should we pay them anything, right? That kind of management thinking. Yeah, get off your lazy butts and get back to work. Go work overtime. Remember, as far as I was tweeting out pro overtime stuff before, and it's these kind of things. And I talk about this stuff with you because it's interesting. You get this sort of weird disconnect in pockets of society where people don't see how the other side lives. Like I can see right here. So workers at Boeing, they feel like they're not getting paid enough. So they're going to go on strike, right? Or they're on strike right now. And then the management, obviously, they're not going to like that because they don't want to pay workers, so they don't have to. They just want to profit and get those sweet Wall Street gains that they want to show everyone at the earnings reports. And I understand that we talk about investing and stuff like that, all the time. But I think as a healthy company, you can treat your workers, in a more equitable way, right? And keep workers happy, keep management happy, keep everyone happy. That's just my opinion. I don't think necessarily have to have an antagonistic relationship with this stuff. So hopefully this thing, resolves. Also, if workers are raising concerns about safety, I think that stuff matters as well. And that's part of the concerns of the workers is, we want some more room at the table, and it's not just about Wall Street dollars, et cetera. And I know that's the topic of this channel. We talk about Wall Street and stuff like that, but you have a fuller understanding of what's going on with the markets and individual companies, right? Think about from multiple perspectives, not just from whatever your billionaire CEO, idol, God says. Think about like just regular person, and that's why it's so fascinating to me to see what the Tesla stock promoters are up to today. To say, oh, okay, and here's an example too, right? And I think this is going to be more and more. I think the workers, and this would be in any number of companies, right? So this example says hundreds of Amazon delivery drivers in New York joined the Teamsters Union. I think we're going to see more of this stuff because just the inflationary pressures, be it housing, food, energy, etc. More and more workers are going to want more money, and one of the ways you can do that is you can organize. So I'd like to hear from you guys in the community if because I don't know everyone's situation. If there's rumblings around the office that people are going to do that kind of thing. I myself, I've been in the union a couple of times. Actually, it is a choice, but it's more like I'll tell you. I worked at the Fashion Institute of Technology, so that was actually a SUNY school, if you guys know what that is. The State University of New York. So the workers are all unionized, and I was a professor there, and we were just part of the union. And basically, they negotiate stuff for you, and you get more pay. And it's like, oh, okay. And then I've worked for the city and various things every now and then, and it's the same kind of thing. So do I go all the meetings or know what's going on? No, not really. I don't know. But I just know that as a worker, okay, my pay goes up, my benefits go up, great, right? Negotiate something for me. And that's just part of how this stuff works. And there's unity, or how can I say, there's strength in numbers, essentially how this stuff is. If I go individually and everyone goes individually, then you have differences in how people are treated. And this is part of the politics. You do have to follow this stuff. So here, for example, it says Harris meets with Teamsters as campaign chases union endorsement. And it's funny because different from the Trump perspective, he's trying to pitch to working class people by saying, hey, I'm not going to tax your tips, or pitch to other people away, hey, I'm not going to tax your overtime. But I told you guys with this kind of stuff is when you set up these sort of systems, there'll be definitely a lot of like manipulation and fraud on how people end up paying you. The other thing too, what's going on, just interesting, and I've talked about this on the channel, and I warned you guys about this stuff. This is the Apple situation. So Apple stock is down today. Why? Well, I guess their pre-orders on the new iPhone 16 just not that great. And basically, remember the markets, or you could call Wall Street or whatever, they're all trying to push to you that, oh, Apple's going to make all this money on AI, and AI is going to be the future, etc. Well, the AI stuff isn't ready, right? It's not going to be on your new phones if you order the dang thing. So there's no like rush to get it. And then the other question is, do you really need a new phone at all? And these are the things I want you to think about just as a consumer, right? So you're an investor and a consumer, but as a consumer, let's say, for example, Apple comes out and says, hey, you can upgrade your new phone. It's going to cost you $200. Would you do it? Chances are probably yes, right? But if suddenly if I say, hey, the new Apple phone's coming out, it's going to cost you $1,000 to upgrade, would you do it? And you start thinking, well, for $1,000, right? So So this is the way you think about whether or not you're going to buy a new iPhone this cycle is the same way many people think about it, right? And then you export that to an entire market. And so it's always fascinating to watch these things. And this is sort of why, you want to look at everything. Or another example, if you're struggling with, say, childcare costs, right? And you're thinking, okay, I'm definitely not buying a new iPhone this year. Let me look at this. I got to pay, and this is the average these days. I guess it's like $33,000 a year that people pay in childcare, and I think that's family of four is how they're figuring that out. The problem is, is this really a thing a politician can address? Because people want their how can I say, their main concerns talked about, right, in campaigns. And this is actually quite interesting. This is by and I just use a childcare example, but there's a bunch of different things that people have to pay for, right? This is when you talk about, say, markets, and you talk about, say, Apple, how much discretionary income does a consumer have? So say childcare, housing, college tuition, transportation, food, and healthcare. And in many regions, or actually, I'm just looking at the chart here, I think it's every region actually in the USA, childcare is more than your housing. You can see it. Actually, no. The only ones it's not is the West. So your housing comes in at like 28,000. I think it's what people are paying a year. Yeah, average price. And then childcare, you're paying like 26 a year. So just to live, right? If you have a family, four, I guess, and you got childcare at 26,000, you got housing at 28,000, right? You got to be making well over six figure to make ends meet, to figure this stuff out. I'm sure you guys know this stuff. You do the math in your household. You got your transportation, food, healthcare, etc. So this is an interesting issue. How, in my opinion, we just had that last debate. If I'm a politician on the campaign trail, I'm addressing the number one and number two, childcare and housing, and that's stuff that I tell you guys about this stuff all the time. Talk about these things all the time, and so one of the things that frustrates me about our current situation, and I know we talk about markets, but it's all related, markets, consumers, but you talk about politics, is that if you have a candidate just talking about crowd size all the time, and my crowd is bigger than your crowd, does the average voter care this stuff? No. This is if you want to be, in my opinion, an successful politician, address the needs of Americans, talk to Americans, what Americans care about. So I think it's these couple of things. So it's interesting to look at these costs. And a lot of it is going to be tough to manage because it is tied to labor costs, right? Childcare, you got to hire people to do said things. And you can see that you guys know this, you got to pay people to do this stuff, and it just keeps going up. The other issue as well, and this relates, is in some neck of the woods, right? Some places, you may hire someone from south of the border to clean your house, to take care of your kids, any number of things. And for those of you guys who just, these realities, it's just a reality. Or, some positions, and this is related to childcare costs, but not exactly the same, but similar. Nurses come from all over the place. I always mention this all the time. When I was in LA, they are mostly actually a lot from the Philippines. I think there are other countries that nurses come from also, but there's a lot of ones that come out of the country, because I guess we just don't have enough Americans that want to do it. And the pay is actually pretty decent. So healthcare, and someone else here wrote in the community recently too that they're still hiring. I've heard that several times. That now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the job you have to do, but I'm saying if you are looking for work, that there's always gonna be work there. You're hearing this also too from the market. It's kind of interesting. Bank of America, they're saying boring is good, and that's referring to dividend stocks. So essentially, the trade into the big tech is overcrowded. Some of the dividend companies may be interesting. What's the Fed going to do? They're going to be announcing, well, that's the rumor on the street, so it's probably already priced in the market. They're going to be announcing cuts this week. Is it going to be 25 basis points or 50? Well, it's interesting. This was a prediction here, and I'll read it to you guys. I thought it was pretty interesting. It says here, if the Fed leads off with a half-point move, economists expect the dot plot to show a full percentage point reduction over the course of the year. So if it's a big cut now, we're looking for a couple more smaller cuts, right, to add up to a full percentage point, right? So suggesting 2 more quarter points cuts at each of the remaining meetings. Or if it comes out with a quarter point move, then we're looking at maybe 0.75 this year. It's kind of interesting. So that's the two bets that we're looking at. And the other thing too, which I thought was interesting that they brought up, but it's worth mentioning. I'll read it here. If Trump wins a second term as president, the fear is that he will escalate the antagonistic approach to the Fed that characterized his first term by directly not the central bank's independence. There were reports coming out of the Wall Street Journal. It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. I remember seeing it, that Trump was already talking to advisors that hey, can I take control of the Fed? I want to make sure they keep printing that money, and I want to launch the stock market to the moon. Woohoo! And that was always something that he talked about quite a bit. He, in his opinion, was the stock market is representative of if his presidency is good or not. And I'm just telling you guys the truth, in my opinion. If you're whatever candidate out there, talk about things that matter to people: housing, childcare, right? This kind of stuff, right? These are the and if you want to talk about other stuff, college tuition, transportation, food, healthcare, whatever. But these are the things that affect Americans' pocketbooks and figure out how to address the needs and issues of Americans. So that's my point of view of stuff. I'd like to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the consumer? Do you agree that you're not buying an iPhone, or are you buying an iPhone? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think about Elon Musk learning his lesson? Do you agree with me, or do you disagree that Elon has a low EQ? You could argue the IQ stuff, but I think the EQ stuff is pretty evident. And it's always fun to hang out with you guys and share what's going on in the market. So appreciate your time, and I'll catch you next video.